You know, sometimes a global alliance doesn't collapse with a dramatic event. Not with armies, not with sanctions. It can crumble with a single word, a handshake left incomplete, a conversation that suddenly goes cold. Tonight we're going there. We're pulling back the curtain on something that shook the world stage, something raw, something personal. Because when Donald Trump speaks, whether you love him or hate him, people listen. This time he didn't target a country, he didn't blame a system. He pointed at one person, a single Indian official. In his words, that one man ruined the US-India relationship. So who is this man? What happened behind those closed diplomatic doors? And how did one moment of resistance change the course of a global partnership? This isn't just politics. It's about pride, ego, influence, and a rising Indian diplomacy that refuses to yield. It's about one voice standing firm and making the world pay attention. So take a seat, turn up the volume, and follow this all the way. Because once you know what truly happened, you won't view US-India relations the same way again. From poverty to power, India's economic roar has been remarkable. Not long ago, the world labelled India a developing country, a polite way of saying not a threat. They saw crowded streets, widespread poverty, and political instability. But what they missed was something much stronger, a drive to rise. Today, India isn't just participating in the global economy, it's shaping it. According to the IMF and World Bank, India is the fastest growing major economy in the world. Its GDP growth surpasses global giants like Germany, Japan, and even the United States. While others are handling recessions and stagnation, India is investing, constructing, and expanding. From Mumbai's stock market to Bengaluru's tech hubs, money is flowing. Over 70,000 startups have emerged since 2016, making India the third largest startup ecosystem globally. This isn't just about apps or unicorns, it's about a generation saying, we don't just want jobs, we'll create industries. While much of the world struggled with the effects of COVID, India became a pharmaceutical powerhouse, sending vaccines to more than 70 countries. While inflation rattled Western economies, India stabilised fuel costs through careful international strategies. And now India is signing trade agreements with the UK, UAE and Australia while negotiating better access to the European Union. That's not just survival, that's strategy. This is no longer the India of cheap labour. This is the India of smart investment, billion-dollar valuations, digital finance systems and green energy revolutions. The West is watching closely because when 1.4 billion people begin to thrive, there's no turning back. Sometimes all it takes is a single voice, not an army, not a movement, just one person, firm in belief, clear in values, and unshakable in principle, to shift the thinking of a nation and upset the balance of global power. This is exactly what happened when one Indian diplomat faced one of the most unpredictable and influential leaders in the world, Donald Trump, and did not flinch. Trump, a man who built his empire on loyalty, spectacle, and dominance, was used to walking into a room and owning it, with heads nodding and people adjusting to his tempo. But this time was different. Sitting across the table was Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, a man of few words but tremendous presence. In that high-stakes room filled with diplomats and pressing demands, one thing became clear. India was not there to bow, it was there to be heard. Trump made headlines, not because of a policy or a speech, but because of something deeply personal. He stated that one Indian diplomat, not India as a whole, had destroyed US-India relations. That statement was more than a complaint, it was a revelation. It showed that global politics isn't only about treaties or strategies, it's about people, ego, respect, and emotion. Trump wasn't upset with a country, he felt rejected by an individual. And when someone like Trump feels rejected, he remembers it. He wasn't angry about tariffs or defense deals. He was upset that someone had the courage to say no, that someone was Jaishankar. This is where the mindset shift becomes clear. For decades, India had been the silent partner, cooperative, polite, agreeable. The West was accustomed to the India that listened more than it spoke, the India that waited for a seat at the table. But this new generation of Indian diplomacy is different. It doesn't ask politely, it asserts, it doesn't seek to please, it positions. When Trump's team entered that meeting expecting quick wins, fast concessions and admiration, what they got instead was clarity, calm, confidence and an unapologetic no. India did not reject partnership, it rejected pressure. Jaishankar was not rude, he was firm. He was not emotional, he was strategic. He did not challenge Trump personally, he challenged the assumption that India could be managed, steered or softened. That quiet resistance shook the room because the strongest power isn't always the loudest. Trump thrives on control. His foreign policy is built not on institutions but on chemistry, admiration and obedience. When Jaishankar held his ground, calmly defending India's interests and autonomy, it was not merely diplomacy, it was disruption. Saying India would not bend was not meant to insult Trump, but to him it became personal. That refusal to validate his worldview is what caused the shift. Jaishankar became the symbol of a new India, one that doesn't fear losing favour, one that values dignity over deals. This moment is more significant than many realise. Every generation sees a few leaders who are not loud, yet their silence speaks volumes. Leaders who do not fight yet win. Leaders who do not raise their voices yet elevate the standing of their nation. Jaishankar did not make it personal, but he did not allow it to become a performance either. He understood that representing a country is not about flattering others, it's about standing for it. And this is where mindset matters, not just for diplomats or politicians, but for anyone. In life, you will enter rooms where others expect you to shrink, to nod, to remain silent. In those moments, your power does not lie in how loudly you speak, but in how firmly you stand. That is what Jaishankar taught the world, and that is what India is teaching every rising nation today. Every young professional, every underestimated individual, you don't need to shout to show strength, you just need to know your worth. So the next time someone questions your place at the table, the next time you feel pressured to compromise just to fit in, remember this moment. One person, one voice, one stand can change everything. That's how perspectives shift. That's how nations rise. And that's how one quiet voice can ripple across the entire world. The way Trump operates isn't about secret loyalty, admiration, respect, or get out. And if someone challenges that, he doesn't simply walk away. He remembers, he reacts. What unfolded wasn't just a policy disagreement, it was an emotional shift. Meet the person who refused to bend, Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister. Sharp, strategic, relentless. He's not just a diplomat, he's the symbol of a new India, one that's done being lectured to, one that enters global rooms with its head held high. During Trump's presidency, trade deals, defense discussions, everything was up for negotiation. In the middle of it, Shankar held firm. He wasn't there to flatter egos, and let's be clear, Trump expects admiration, not resistance. So when Shankar refused to yield, it felt personal. Yes, Modi and Trump played nice publicly. Think howdy Modi, namas Trump. But behind those photos, a different story unfolded. Shankar was holding the line, and Trump read that firmness as defiance. There was one particular high-stakes, high-pressure meeting. Trump's aides wanted concessions. India wanted fairness, respect and independence. Shankar said no to tariffs, no to tech transfers, no to defence compromises. India wasn't going to be manipulated or coerced. Trump didn't see that as just policy resistance. He saw it as a personal slight. From that moment, the tone shifted. Trade deals stalled. Defence agreements lagged. Public smiles hid private tension. Eventually, Trump put the blame on one man for the fallout. After 2020, the friendship began to fracture publicly. The US removed India's GSP trade benefits. America first collided with Atman Bharat, a self-reliant India. Washington wanted more access, more control. India said, not at the cost of our sovereignty. And that didn't sit well with some, especially regarding defence. India purchased the S-400 missile system from Russia. The US threatened sanctions. India held its ground. Then Ukraine happened. The West expected condemnation. India chose neutrality. Strategic autonomy wasn't just a slogan, it was a boundary. This isn't the India of the 90s. This is unapologetic diplomacy. No more being spoken down to. India isn't asking for a seat at the table, it's taking it. This was supposed to strengthen the alliance. Instead, it led to strain. The room became cold. Trust started to crack. Even though public smiles remained, both governments sensed the shift. Trump walked away feeling disrespected. Shankar walked away taller. It wasn't war, it wasn't sanctions, it was ego versus sovereignty. Two forces, two mindsets, and one unforgettable standoff. Global politics isn't just about policies. It's about people. It's about emotion. Trump didn't like being challenged. Shankar wasn't there to appease. One sought a deal, the other demanded respect. Looking back, this could have reinforced a global alliance, but instead it nearly fractured it because two strong, unwavering figures collided. Trump, driven by loyalty and ego. Shankar, driven by principle and strategy. This wasn't a failure of policy. It was a refusal of one individual to shrink, and that refusal sent a message across the world. In the end, when Trump said it wasn't India that failed America, but one Indian, he admitted something greater. That dignity is sometimes mistaken for defiance. That standing tall can mean walking alone. History will decide whether this was destruction or the beginning of a new kind of diplomacy.